Frigg, the goddess in Anglo-Saxon literature. Who is Frigg? Well, Frigg, she is a demigoddess, mentioned many times throughout Norse literature. She is the wife of Lord Odin, and Lord Odin is the chief of the demigods, lord of the heavenly realm. Frigg's Vedic correspondent is Indrani, who is wife of Lord Indra, and Lord Indra, like Lord Odin, Lord Indra is the king of the heavenly realm known as Svargaloka, and is chief of the demigods. Here we have an excerpt from Aefric's Lives of the Saints, talking about Saint Martin's experience, where in this excerpt the devil, so to speak, appears into many forms and whatnot, and among these forms are the Norse deities, if you will. And without further ado, I'm going to read this excerpt. And henne jesewen lichna, on manium, shinhium, tham halchan atewede, and there hevendra, goda hiwa. Huilon, on ilvet hiwa, the is jehaten Thor, Huilon, on Mercurius, the men hatath ovum. Huilon, on Veneris, thera, fulan guden. The men hatath. I'm not going to pronounce it because later in this video we'll dive into the phonology of how to pronounce this. So this Fricg is our quote-unquote Frigg, the goddess in question. And on manium oldrum hivum hinna bred se devar on thas bishopus jesichtha. As for a translation, as follows. Here we go. And he showed himself visible in diverse phantasms to the saint, in the appearance of the gods of the heathen, sometimes in Jove's form, who is called Thor, sometimes in Mercury's, who is called Odin, sometimes in that of Venus, the foul goddess, whom men call, again, quote-unquote Frigg, we'll discuss the CG and whatnot later, and into many other shapes the devil transformed himself into the bishop's sight. Here, we have another attestation of the goddess Frigg in Aefric's Lives of the Saints, in the part of De Falsis Dis, literally meaning on the false gods, if you will. So without further ado, let's get into the Old English. Thona suxon dai hi jeseton on terra sham lazon gudenan Venus jehatsten and blank Frigg on Danish. The sixth day they appointed to the shameless goddess called Venus and quote-unquote Frigg in Danish. Now, before I carry on with the third attestation of the goddess Frigg, there is something to be said about these excerpts. Why the term shameless is used here, why is foul being used here. There is a context to this, a Abrahamic misunderstanding where they mixed Greco-Roman deities and the stories, mixed it with the Germanic, make it into this mess or what have you. That's one reason why you see shameless here, you see foul here. And of course, Abraham of this time, wouldn't want to understand Germanic spirituality on its own terms because, the idea is to fight and convert, demonize, as we see here in these excerpts and whatnot. Of course, these deities are seen as false, therefore untrue, and by extension, imagined. As well, we have an attestation of, interestingly enough, Die Friggan, which is attested in a manuscript of, it's known as a Bauern Praktik. From this would mean Friday, or if you will, Day of Frigg, or if you will, as we see the Latin gloss here, Die Veneris, so Day of Venus, Friday. Let's move on. Now, to get to the phonology, based on the attestations that we looked at, this is late Old English. These were after the Viking invasions from Denmark into England. This word Frigg, I'm assuming, is a direct loan into Old English. So let's carry on with the phonological part. So we have from Proto-Germanic JJ, which evolved into GG in Old Norse, hence Frigg. As for a phonological correspondence, as far as phonology is concerned, in the Old English side of it, we have GN from the Proto-Germanic GN, which, lack of a better term, got leveled out. Joseph Wright talks about this in his Old English grammar. Became Proto-West Germanic GG, and then later became GG in Old English, also represented by GC and CG. And the reason for this, Eduard Sievers explains that the GC-CG spelling is to indicate that this is a guttural pronunciation, guttural in the context of a g as in game, goal, etc. So as in Old English we have frogga, frog, doga, dog. As an aside, there is doka in Middle English, so it could very well be that the C may have been pronounced, but at the same time it could very well be a representation for a g sound as in game. So again, with that assumption that this is a Old Norse loan word into Old English, which got Anglified, or if you will, Old Anglified, if you will, that, you know, we have the manifestation of these words here, which very well would have been pronounced if we're going to go with that phonological correspondence, that CG is a representation of G, as in game. So Frigg would be the pronunciation of this. And further, we have the double G there, so assuming that, again, this is that loan, assuming this is kind of going with that correspondence, if you will, that phonological correspondence, if you will. The reconstructed form I have here, what I've done here is that I have a Frigge and a Frigga, a later pronunciation, or if you will, the variant of which. You could pronounce this as Frigga, because there is that possibility of this being not only just a representation for a G sound, but in some cases it could very well be actual K sound. But in the strong form, I don't think it would be pronounced as Frigg. Maybe, I don't know. Again, we're talking about a language from more or less 1500 years ago, so I would say it's safe to say that the strong form would indicate a G as in game, since the assumption here is that it's from Danish, right? As we hear from Aefric's Lives of the Saints. So really the last part is really just a mental speculation on my part, given the evidence from the evolution of Doga. Natively in Old English we have fri, which is cognate to Old High German fria. This begs the question, why didn't these Anglo-Saxon scribes, monks, or what have you use the Old English, the native Old English word? Well, the reason for that, you got to think about it. These Abrahamists of the time, they want to see themselves as different from these outsiders, these Danish people, these Vikings, so to speak, and like it's kind of like this Abrahamist idea that us versus them, we're nothing like these people. They have their gods and this and that, so try to distance themselves from the Danish, so to speak. So words like this would not be used. Well, which would be one explanation. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe if you're new. And if you really like the channel, please become a patron on my Patreon page down below. Thanks for watching. Bye bye, and hail Frigg!